Welcome back to part 2 of the Mortal Instruments. As before, this is a reread series for me, and I've already started book 4 here, and I've made it quite a bit of progress. Admittedly, most of this progress has been tonight, and it's because once I actually pick this back up, it's such a quick, easy read. Not to mention, like, really, the font really is fairly large in the book. So, and I feel like I've looked at this one before next to the other ones, and I feel like this is the shortest one in the series. At least it just looks like it, maybe, to me. And I don't know if that's because I just finished reading The Infernal Devices, and The Infernal Devices are all a little bit chunkier than this one, so maybe this is average for the Mortal Instruments. I can't really remember at this point. This is book 4, and kind of this one is going to encompass books 4, 5, and 6, and this is more about how the second half of the series is more like separate than the first half of the series. You get my drift, just because it was originally written as a trilogy and then extended into 3 books. So I felt it was appropriate to split these books, not to mention the timeline of recommended reading order. But in this one, we kind of pick up shortly after where book 3 left off. Let me read the back for you. The mortal war is over, and Clary Frey is home in New York, excited about all the possibilities before her. She's training to become a shadow hunter, and most importantly of all, she can finally call Jace her boyfriend. But her happiness has come at a price. And like I said, I've already made a good chunk through this. We have several different storylines going on, which I like jumping around in books like that, like through different like point of views and stuff. So we have Simon, and he's off with this guy named Kyle. They're kind of got their own timeline going on, and then there's another timeline with the Conclave and Camille, the vampire, going on, deal there. And then there's also the subplot of Jocelyn and Luke's wedding being planned right now. And then there's the subplot of Jace and his deal that he has going on. And I like how we're like pulling stuff all over the place. And there's been mentions of Sebastian slash Jonathan, whatever we want to call him, being brought up. So it's going really well. Like I said, I'm quite a bit further in, and we've been kind of intermingling all these so far. And we kind of just, a lot of it's just like being dropped on us. Like, here's this, here's this, here's this. We've actually just had a lot dropped on us in the last chapter here with how those plotlines are going on. And I'm not even gonna lie, this is like a book that I have the vague, like the super vague one. Like, this is more of a filler book, I'm not even gonna lie. Of stuff going on. Like, I could not remember who Kyle was to save my life. I completely forgot about this plot line with Camille and Simon and stuff going on. And I also completely forgot about the whole ordeal Jace has going on. Like, this, like, I remember mostly, I feel like I mostly remember Heavenly Fire and, like, parts of Lost Soul. So, like, this book is, like, completely lost on me. Like, I have no recollection of this book. So, this has been an interesting read. Like I said, super fast. I'm actually thinking I may be able to finish this, I would say tomorrow, but it's technically later today because it's almost 1 a.m. So I feel like I can finish this later today here because there's really not too much more to read. It is a few days later, and I have finished City of Fallen Angels. I probably realistically could have finished it last night if I read it for 2 sprints on my sprint. But I did not, because I've been trying to bounce back and forth between all of my books. But I did go ahead and finish it. I did like my reread of this. This is one of the books, again, that has just merged with book 5 in my head. Yeah, book 4 and 5 have merged. I think I said books like 1 and 2 also merged in my head. Well, books 4 and 5 also merged in my head. Some of the stuff that I thought was like happening all the way back here, I thought it happened earlier in the story. So again, I thought it merged just in my head. There are events that have not happened yet that I remember happening in this series, and I assume they are in the next book because again, meshed together in my brain. So, I did read this one very quick. And I kind of like the cliffhanger, and you can tell that, I feel like there was a clear distinction between books 3 and 4, where you could tell, like, there was room to end it, and then, she decided to extend it to another 3 books here, which is fine, because I like the last book. 4 and 5 are, like, okay, but, like, I would say book 6 is probably one of my favorites in the series. We have all the tension, all the drama with all of, let's just say, Simon is very confusing with his relationships. Okay, like, what are you doing, boy? You know? Also, there's just some lovely little, tension bits between them, and then there's even more tension when, somebody's ex-boyfriend shows up. And, yeah, what's even better? When he's lying about his motives for being around. So, great, 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 great. I do kind of wish there was more Luke in this book. I mean, Jocelyn's been a character that's floated in and out, but I feel like Luke has had a more major role, and I kind of am disappointed he's not in it more. But we also get more of Alex and Magnus's return. Like, it's mentioned, like, towards the end of the book, because it's mentioned in the first part, like, they're off on vacation, whatever, which I know what has happened now and that, because I did read the Red Scrolls of Magic, so I do know what was happening there. So that kind of, like, honestly, I think it made me enjoy this book more, because, like, I knew what was happening with Alice and Magnus, I wasn't just like, well, where are they? What the hell? So I really did enjoy this. Hopefully I can pick up book 5 here soon. I do know book 5 is a little bit chunkier. I think I've mentioned that I think this is the shortest book in the series. And I think book 5 is a little bit chunkier. I'm trying to, like, gauge it, but my plants are in the way. My cactus is in the way. I can't really fully gauge it. It looks thicker than this one, but not as thick as book 6. Okay? So I'm hoping I can start it soon. But it's kind of haunted library right now for the readathon that I'm co-hosting. So the spinner wheel is going to decide what I read next. But hopefully I can get back into this series soon because I want to finish it. I have started and finished City of Lost Souls. I started this about 10 days ago and I did finish it here today. I was in a little bit of a crunch because this is a buddy read in a certain book Discord, and we only have 3 months to read each book, and this was supposed to be September's book and it's the end of November. So it's closing literally tomorrow, so I had a little bit of a crunch to finish it, which I'm also going to be in a little bit of a crunch to finish Heavenly Fire, but I have a good solid 31 days. So I'm finishing this one as I was reading this one. Loved it again. But what did I realize? I realized as I was kind of reading Fallen Angels, I kind of started to realize it as I was reading this one, and as I finished it, I realized, wow, my brain combined the plot of the last 3 books into one book in my head, guys. And as I was reading this one, it got even more apparent that my brain only vaguely remembers the gist of the plot. Like, what's the main outcome of it? And all the things leading up to that main event, my brain has neglected. And at this point, there is a scene that I have vividly in my mind that occurs in this series. And I don't know if it happens at this point, because I thought it happened in Fallen Angels, and it did not happen. So it's like, oh, it must happen in Lost Souls. Guess what? It still did not happen. And at this point, I'm starting to question, I'm like, this scene actually happened? Or is it all in my head? Because even if it happens in Heavenly Fire, I had the whole setup wrong. I'm like, I thought they were coming from this place to this place, and they did that in this book. They came from that place. But the event didn't happen that I was expecting to happen. And I was like, sweet. Also, forgot all about the fairy rings that they're over there communicating with. Forgot that was even a plot line. And then and once I remembered, I was like, oh yeah, that is a plot line. I forgot that she loses it and they don't have that. And I'm like, And again, I forgot that this takes place, like, the big fight at the end of the book happens in Europe. I forgot that it happens in Europe. I was like, I totally thought it was in New York yet, but guess what? We are not in New York for it. We actually are not in New York for any of, like, the Clary and Jace plotline, like, pretty much at all. For, like, literally 2/3 of the book. And I'm like, wow, I totally thought it was still in my head. I'm just finding that, really, my brain has not done the second half of this series any justice. I know the main plots, but I don't know any of the details whatsoever. So again, this was an excellent idea for me to reread this before I continue on with the universe, because again, I don't know what's happening, apparently, which is kind of embarrassing for me. We also, at the end of this book, get why the next one is called Heavenly Fire, and I had no clue. No clue. I forgot entirely why it was called Heavenly Fire at all. And I'm like, that is, like, super embarrassing, Lexi, that you forgot why it's called Heavenly Fire. It's literally a major part of the damn plot. That's really embarrassing for me. But here we are. Yay! Shh.
Why you have to cry when we get in the car and we're not moving? Eleanor's in the car with us right now. I don't know why you have to cry though every time we're in the car and we're not moving. I just wanted to come on and say I started City of Heavenly Fire, and I already don't remember the beginning of this book. As I'm reading it, I don't recall what's happening. I'm only on chapter 2, which is like 56 pages in. Also, the print in this book is much smaller than the other one, so it's going to take me longer to read. But my goal is to go ahead and finish this before the new year begins. So my goal today is to read a bunch of this and see where we go.
So, I decided to end off 2024 with I'm going to read this entire 640-page book. And guess what? I did it. So, this was City of Heavenly Fire. This is the last book in the Mortal Instruments series. I honestly think this one is probably my favorite in the series. It is a little bit more like there's action going on, but there's also a lot more like interactions between the characters and like character growth I feel in this one, which I really did enjoy. We also get introduced to some newer characters right off the bat, which I'm assuming that's because I'm guessing they come up in the subsequent series that follows the end of the Mortal Instruments. I'm really, really interested, and also all of the connections that, like, the first time I read these, I didn't notice because I hadn't read the Infernal Devices the first time I read the Mortal Instruments, however many years ago. But reading it now, you can see the connections between, especially in this book more so than the other ones, the connection between the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices and the crossover in some of the characters, and there are references to things that happened in the Infernal Devices in this one that honestly it doesn't like take away your enjoyment of the read. I don't feel like it doesn't spoil or anything. They just kind of like hint at it, and knowing if you've read the Infernal Devices, I feel like that makes it just make more sense. Not that you can't understand it without reading those books, but it makes a nice connection between them. I really do feel like this was a nice way to round out the series, although I am sad if we're saying goodbye to the characters in this one because I really did enjoy the characters. I would love to see how Simon comes into the role of the Shadow Universe. I'm trying to keep it kind of vague for a reason. I don't want to spoil anyone, but it would be nice to see that's more round off if I could see more how that goes. I do know that the next one recommended is the Bane Chronicles, which is a collection of short stories, and I know that goes over some stuff with Magnus, and some of it's present day, some of it's in the past, blah blah blah. But I really am going to be sad if we're saying bye to like Clary and Jace and Simon and Isabel and Alex. I would be very, very sad if we were saying goodbye to them, and I don't know because this is honestly the furthest I've actually ever read in this series. So I don't. It's all gonna be new after this. I don't know what comes next, guys. But I am excited to get through this one. We will be jumping into the Bane Chronicles in the next video, and then I think Tales from the Shadowhunters Academy, and then ending off the next video with The Lost Book of White, as I believe the next 3 books that are on the recommended reading list.